Our topic for this video is making charts in Excel. You've already made a chart in Microsoft Word, and it actually opened up a small Excel spreadsheet. So let's try the same features, but we'll do a little bit more formatting this time. And I'm just going to experiment as we go through, so I don't even have a real specific plan for each of these choices. So in sheet 1, we're going to graph some test scores, and of course I just made up some sample data. So let's first, as a reminder, let's rename. So I'm going to right click on sheet 1 and choose rename, and then I can just type over the top when it's highlighted. So I'm going to call this test scores. So each sheet then will have a better name, and I've already put in the spreadsheet data just to make this assignment go a little quicker. So here we're going to choose line graphs similar to we did an example like this in Microsoft Word, and I want you to realize that the Microsoft Office features overlap in many ways. Let's make the choice here, and if we saw it a second ago, and now if I hover, it'll tell me the name of this. This is line with markers. So I'm going to choose this option. And again, your screen might look a little bit different, but I think you should have all of these same choices somewhere. So I'm going to choose line with markers, and it immediately shows me my chart. So much quicker than you could do an assignment to make a chart. One click here and we've got a chart, and the only thing we need to do is format it if we would like to change it. So first let me show you that we can change the size of the chart as large or as small, and in the middle of each of the borders, so we could make it narrower or we could make it taller. So you can resize the chart to whatever, and of course you've heard about how statistics can lie, so depending on how far apart you think those vertical lines should be to exaggerate the changes, notice if I collapse it down, it looks like your scores haven't changed very much at all, and if we stretch it vertically, then it looks like there's a lot more volatility in the scores. Okay, so Excel just chose these different colors, and you could be very specific and change. Remember that we can change our theme colors, and let me see, was that in page layout? Yes, it was. In page layout, I can go here and change the color themes, and you can see how the chart changes just as I hover over. So you could pick your favorite choice of colors. Let's choose Concourse. Those are some nice bright colors. So let's put our first spreadsheet in Concourse theme of colors. Okay, now each of these things in our spreadsheet is just an object. So when I click, notice this is just a text box. So I can go to the Home tab and I can make the font larger, and it will reformat in order to make some room for it. So you can also click and drag to move this. You could move your text box. It's just a text box, so you've got control of moving it where you want. You don't have to leave it where it first appeared. Microsoft Word, or Excel rather, puts it in a logical place. We can scroll down here to see the bottom. My legend at the bottom is also a text box. So when I select, I could, for example, click the boldface or do Control B to make that a little more readable if you want those labels to be a little larger font. So you can select your text box and change those. You could just change them one at a time. Oh, I didn't want to double click on that word. I think that you can. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. It's being a little fussy. I thought I could grab each of those words individually, but I guess I might be wrong about that. So I think it's all or nothing. But let's see if I can change the color of that legend. So if I have that text box selected, you could put those captions in whatever color you choose. You don't have to stick to the theme. It just is easier to use the theme colors. And likewise then, the axis labels on the vertical axis, I could make those bold and I could change those to a different color as you wish. Oh, and I did paint can again. I didn't mean to do that. I did Control Z to undo. I wanted to change the text, not the fill. So I could have that selected and make those blue, or whatever you want to do. Now, you might say, well, this doesn't have, I'm going to make it smaller, by the way, so it fits in the window that I am video capturing in this screen capture. But you can make it larger or smaller as you wish. We could add to our chart. So we've got chart tools. When our chart is selected, notice when we click somewhere else, we don't have a tab for chart tools. So the tab only appears when we have the chart selected. So we could change, we could look at the choices in the format. We can look at the choices in the layout. And while I'm here, I think we'll add a chart title so you can see the button here. So once you experiment with this, I think it'll all be something that you'd easily be able to experiment with and try. So centered overlay title puts the title on the chart without resizing the chart, or if I add a title above the chart, then it's going to resize the chart. So let's look at both options. Centering a title over there, or let's change our mind and let's put the title above the chart. So you can see the two differences. And what did it give us? It just gave us a text box. So we go to the text box and we can put in whatever title we want here, and test scores is an obvious title. And then it's up to us to format the title how we wish. So to use your colors and your text sizes, or you could do word art as well. So we can make these whatever we want to do here to size our chart. You can make that larger or smaller. Okay? And I think I'm going to move this chart then. Instead of doing landscape printout later, I think I'll do the portrait landscape. So I'm going to put the chart below my table of data. Okay, so I think that was enough experimenting. Let's go see what's on sheet 2. So here we're looking at the population change of some cities. So I'm going to right click right away so I don't forget it. I'm going to right click on the name of the sheet and choose rename, and it highlights it. So I'm going to call this population. So it will be more clear when someone looks at my workbook. Remember, each of these files is a workbook of spreadsheets. So there are 3 spreadsheets right now in my workbook. Okay, so what kind of graph should we try this time? Let's highlight the information. And notice, to get a good chart, you're going to need to have some column and row headings according to whatever type of chart you want to make. I go to the Insert tab. And I think this time let's do a column graph. Let's do the pull down menu though to see all of our choices. And you can try these with repeating this file. You can try some of these in a different way after you complete your assignment. Let's do 3D columns here. That will work nicely. And I think let's go to our page layout and let's see again what kind of color themes we might like here. So you can scroll down. These aren't all that colorful. You might, if you like bright reds and bright blues, you might want to set up your own color theme, which is easy enough to do as well. All right, so let's see. I think let's go with solstice this time. So I have blue, yellow, red, green. It's easy to tell the difference between those. So I'm going to pick solstice. And notice the format when I picked 3D, what it's trying to show us here is that we've got a side wall and a back wall to our chart. And let me temporarily make this larger. You can make it smaller later. And again, notice that you can just resize it vertically, or you can resize it diagonally, one direction or both directions at the same time. I always think that the legends are too small, so I'm going to get some more space there and make the legend in a larger font. And again, you can choose your labels at the bottom of the screen if I can click there. All right, there we go. Now I've got the labels at the bottom of the screen. And I think that they're a little conservative with the labels. I think that making them a little larger, bold face using color is always a good idea. You may be caught on that I really like red. I just think it is a nice, dark, easily read color. I can change, of course, there's nothing wrong with leaving these labels black either. We're just doing this to get some practice in our choices. So we could pick whatever color. Let's go with the dark green and maybe even the darker green below that. All right, and we could make those a couple sizes larger if you wish. And now we can add a chart title again like we did the last time. So under our design, layout, and format, you can just look around in those menus till you find what you want. I'm going to go to layout here first because I chose 3D for a reason here. I wanted you to see a couple of the options here. So I'm going to look at this options for the chart wall. So that's the back of the graph. So showing the chart wall is the option if I clear the chart wall or if I fill the chart wall. And I'm going to look at the more wall options. So my default color wasn't set here, so I'm going to choose, you can choose solid, gradient. You could even put a picture, insert a picture in the back wall of your graph. You'll see what the back wall is in a second. I'm going to choose gradient, and I'm going to choose one of the colors from our theme. So let's see if we make the wall this green color. And the direction and the type of gradient, you can experiment with all of these. Let's have it be light at or dark at the bottom and lighter at the top. And I'm going to just close. You can experiment with more of these. But now you can see what happened when we put a back wall. So it shaded the back wall of our graph. The chart floor, let's see if we say no chart floor. Or I'm sorry, I just did that to chart wall and I didn't want to do that. Let me do Control Z instead of having to repeat that. Chart floor is what I wanted to say, none. And then it has no color for the chart wall, chart floor. So let's go to chart floor and choose more floor options. And we can do the same thing here. So we could make a solid. So let's see a solid red floor so you'll see it pretty clearly. Okay, so you can see what happened. We got a solid red floor. And now we're getting even more of a 3D idea for our graph. And this rotation, I think you'll like doing this 3D rotation. If we expand the rotation on either one of these axes, let's go up to 50. So I'm using the up arrow on the x-axis. Let's go up to 50% and see if we can notice a change. Let me slide this over first before I click close. So what you're going to watch here now is the depth perception of these columns. So when I click close, let's see what happens. Oh, it already did it automatically. Sorry, I missed the action there. Let me go back to 3D rotation and go down so you can see what's happening here. So if there were no rotation on the x-axis, it just looks like you're looking straight on at the bars. Now let me increase it so you can see it. There's 10% rotation, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. So you can make these look as deep as you want. So I think even that 70% looks good. So you can see what it did was it gave us more of a side perspective that these columns are 3D. Just makes it a little more interesting graphically. And look at what it did, gave us a deeper side wall to our graph. So looking at the value of the slide wall. What else? We're going to add a chart title, but I think you've already seen this. Oh, grid lines might be interesting. Our horizontal grid lines, we're only showing the major grid lines. Look at what happens if I choose showing minor grid lines. So I don't know that anyone's going to count that many lines. You also have a choice to, in the primary horizontal grid lines, to show both major and minor grid lines. So you can count by tens, and then inside the tens it looks like you can count by twos. And let's just go back. I think that makes it look kind of busy. Let's just go back to major grid lines. But that's an interesting choice as well. Okay, you can add a chart title. Again, where do you want to put the chart title? On the top, or we can see what's in more title options. And we can put a border around our title. We can do border styles. We can do shadow on our title. So whatever choice you want to make here, you can experiment with those. Let's just get a chart title, and let's just do center overlay. And notice again, it's a text box, so you can move it if you wanted to put it here, for example, which works for this data, but it might not always work. As long as those columns aren't in this area, we could put our chart title right here. And if we click, we have to have a solid line around the text box to have it selected, and then we can again choose our color that we're going to put there, and you can change the size as well. All right, so let's see what happens if I stretch one of the corners here. I don't have a lot of space inside my window. Let's move up here and let me drag diagonally so you see that we can make the chart larger or smaller as you wish. Okay, and I'm going to think about printing this later, so I'm just going to click on its border and drag it over underneath my chart. And this line, by the way, is from a print preview that I did earlier before I started the video. So I'm going to be kind of careful to keep my chart inside the print preview line so I know that it'll fit on one page. And I want to do quite a bit on the third sheet, so I'm going to finish this video and then we'll go to part 2 of this assignment.